Good morning. Welcome to our Trust Architects webinar on Recommendation 49, and this is an explainer video. We will be recording this video and publishing the contents on YouTube so that people can follow along in their own time. And so just quickly, our agenda. I'm going to do a recommendation 49 overview, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the policy and standards implication, the business implications, and the technology implications. And this is kind of our standard approach to our trust architecture series because we believe that this role of trust architect that we're describing is a new job that combines business, technology, and policy and to achieve transparency and sustainable outcomes in the global marketplace. And Rec 49 and UNTP are some of the tools we see a trust architect using to achieve that goal. Little bit of an overview around Rec 49 and what what is a UN CEFACT recommendation. How does this fit into the global ecosystem? What does Rec 49 specifically say, and what are we trying to accomplish with it? Just going into that, what are UN CEFACT recommendations? There are two types of UN CEFACT recommendations. One is trade facilitation, and the second is code lists. And what's important about that is UN CEFACT is their goal is simple, transparent, and effective processes for global commerce, and they're a standard-setting body for global trade. They are a global trade standard-setting organization run out of the UNECE from a secretariat perspective, but the recommendations are global. Some examples of these recommendations. So for example, recommendation number 1 was airline waybills. So when people ship goods on airplanes anywhere in the world, airline waybills look exactly the same. And they look the same because of recommendation number 1. Then there's UN Low Code, which is a recommendation around location codes, and so standardizing how we identify locations around the world. UN EDIFACT was a trade and manufacturing standard, and recommendation number 33 was a trade single window. And the one we're going to talk about today is recommendation number 49, transparency at scale, fostering sustainable value chains. And this is one that I've been on the team of experts helping to develop. The project is led by Steve Capel, who's a vice chair of UN CEFACT. And we'll go into what recommendation 49 is and what it's actually recommending. So the objectives of recommendation 49 is to create a race to the top where sustainability claims have value. We'll have a separate session on sort of our concept of a race to the top, but basically the core idea here is that if sustainability claims have value, then people can differentiate their products based on that value, and but it also increases the likelihood that people who are maybe not investing in sustainability will claim that they are, so that they can realize that value even if they're not doing the work. And so what transparency at scale is designed to do is ensure that not only do sustainability claims have value, but there's trust and transparency in those value chains so that the people who are actually investing in sustainability outcomes realize that value. And the folks who are not investing in sustainable outcomes are unable to realize the value of those claims. So the core objectives to make that happen is to strengthen national economies and advance responsible business, level the playing field. So this goes to the idea that if people are investing, they shouldn't be competing against people who are not investing in sustainable claims. Improve market access. So there are increasingly market access requirements for sustainable claims. And so we want to increase market access, reduce sustainability complexity, and simplify sustainable consumption. And this is from page 3 of Recommendation 49. And Recommendation 49 is a 28-page document. So what we're trying to do in this presentation is simplify that and condense it down into sort of the key main points. Now, recommendations to nations from UN CEFACT are policy papers. They typically are policy papers, and they're recommendations to nations. And so the actual recommendation in Rec 49 to nations is to develop a national policy for transparency at scale, implement supporting instruments for the national policy on transparency scale. So help your economy and understand what they can do. One of those supporting instruments that can be chosen is the United Nations Transparency Protocol. And so where Recommendation 49 is the policy instrument, UNTP is the implementation instrument. Develop government services in support of the national policy for transparency at scale. There's a bunch of things there. The key thing there is to be a trust anchor for your nationally sovereign identifiers. And this is an important sort of concept where people's existing business identifiers can be used in trade. And if those existing business identifiers are anchored by roots of trust in government, then organizations can have more confidence that the information that they're getting from that business is trustworthy. And promote the final recommendation to nations is to promote the uptake of the national policy for transparency at scale. So create the incentives, the legislative environment, stakeholder plans, et cetera. And this all is from pages 10 and 11 in Rec 49. And this is the core sort of recommendation to nations and regulators in those nations. And the purpose of Rec 49, so those are the recommendations, but the purpose is to support policymakers in demonstrating the improved sustainability of their economies and help facilitate sustainability information being trustworthy. And so in order for the improved sustainability of the economies to occur, then sustainability needs to be a competitive advantage for those economies. Otherwise, businesses won't invest in it. And so this is kind of the core underlying purpose. And so what Rec 49 is trying to do is meet the requirements for trustworthy sustainability information, support value chain participants in adopting trustworthy sustainable information, address the challenges for subject matter experts. One of our attendees today is a big champion for small to medium enterprises in global markets, being able to adopt this kind of capability and envisage a future of transparency and accountability. And this is from the first few pages of the recommendation. There's a little bit more detail on this slide around the scope of the recommendation. The key scope is simplifying the exchange of product sustainability information, so making it easier for buyers to get information from their suppliers and suppliers to share that information with their buyers. Creating transparency at scale, making sure that the proposed implementation instruments can scale to meet the national needs of a market. To create value chain traceability, to build trust in sustainability information, ensure data sovereignty, making sure that that there's not a requirement to share data when it's not in your business interests. Ensure that data has the ability to be discovered in an ad hoc fashion. So this is an idea that's core to UNTP, which is if I have a product or a good, I should be able to find out more information about that good. So making sure that that there's not a predetermined or prescribed way to get information in advance, so that supply chains can evolve and meet the market needs without having to have pre-existing technical infrastructure in place. The next thing is to build a common core data model. And this idea is that at the UN CEFACT level, defining just enough information to achieve the scope and vision and outcomes of the recommendation and no more. And the other sort of idea in Rec 49 is this idea that the Common Core data model can be extended to meet the needs of a specific industry or region or business. And also the final thing is to support a circular economy model. So helping to provide the infrastructure so that circular economy value propositions can be developed, and that the information requirements to support that is available. So the key idea, or one of the examples that we sort of talk about when we think about a circular economy model, is battery recycling. How do we ensure that as batteries hit the post-consumer ecosystem, recyclers and waste management, how do we ensure that they are able to get the information about the product so that they can safely handle that product and ensure that it gets back into the value chain as cheaply and as effectively as possible? Some of the benefits that we anticipate as a result of nations implementing Recommendation 49. The ability to share trustworthy sustainability information is a direct benefit. Right now, because of the varied ways that people share information, it's hard and expensive to ensure trustworthiness in that data exchange. Increase verifiability of claims and disclosure, enhance the credibility of information flowing through the value chains, particularly around sustainability, so that customers can value that information more easily, and also so that they can differentiate the products that have high quality verifiable claims against products that don't, and so that the value flows to the products that do have verifiability, as opposed to ones that maybe are just claiming that they do. Streamlining reporting estimate efforts. So one of the challenges that organizations are facing as more regulations come into effect around sustainability is how they meet their sustainability requirements. And the key opportunity here is by standardizing the exchange of information between buyer and supplier, the reporting efforts on the buyer side can be streamlined. And then the final thing is ensuring data sovereignty. We shouldn't have to require a third-party technology vendor or manager or technology ecosystem to get between us and our customers. And so ensuring data sovereignty means that as a manufacturer or as a supplier of products, I don't have to contract with a specific tech vendor or technology to trade. And that's an important piece of some of the direct benefits. Here are some of the indirect benefits. I'm not going to walk through all of those. Folks can read them, and they're also in pages 8 and 9 of Recommendation 49, and we can go from there. So where are we with Recommendation 49? So I said at the beginning that it was coming soon. It's actually going to be in front of the plenary next week if you're watching this live, but the beginning of July 2025 if you're watching this on the various YouTube channels. So next week in Geneva, there's more to come as I'm going to be there next week, and so we'll do a webinar from there as well.